Welcome to the 700 Club. For a year, he did his research, planned his attack. Mohammed Solomon waited until his daughter graduated from high school, and then he burned his Jewish victims with a flamethrower and Molotov cocktails.
Solomon specifically targeted a group that hosts weekly events to bring attention to the Israeli hostages in Gaza. Federal hate crime charges and state murder charges have been filed against him. CBN's Wendy Griffith has our report.
According to the FBI, Mohammed Solomon confessed to the attack. He told investigators he wanted to kill all Zionist people and wished they were all dead. He said he had no regrets and would do it again.
Mr. Solomon stated that he had been planning this attack for a year. And he acted because he hated what he called the Zionist group.
Solomon specifically targeted the Run for Their Lives group, a national organization with a chapter in Boulder, Colorado, that hosts weekly runs and walking events aimed at bringing attention to the Israeli hostages still being held in Gaza. Dressed as a gardener, Solomon tried to blend in as he waited for his victims to march toward him before unleashing a makeshift flamethrower and Molotov cocktails on the crowd while yelling, "Free Palestine."
And then the attacker came out from the bushes and the trees the second time, and he threw another cocktail. And on the second one, he lit himself on fire accidentally. And I imagine it's accidentally. He seemed to have a bulletproof vest on or some kind of vest and then a shirt underneath it. And after he lit himself on fire, he took off the vest and the shirt, and he was shirtless. But he still had his Molotov cocktails in his hand, ready to use them, like ready to throw them and explode them on people.
The husband and father of 5 told investigators he waited until his daughter graduated from high school last Thursday to carry out the attack. He said no one knew about his plans, and he expected to die during his assault.
If we uncover evidence that others knew of this attack or supported the subject in this attack, rest assured that we will aggressively move to hold them accountable to the fullest extent of the law.
Officials say 8 people ranging in age from 52 to 88 were hospitalized Sunday with burns, and 2 of those victims remained in the hospital Monday. 4 other people suffered minor injuries. Federal officials say Solomon is in the country illegally. Born in Egypt, he lived in Kuwait for 17 years and moved to Colorado Springs 3 years ago and stayed in the U.S. after his work permit expired. Solomon was ordered back to court on Thursday. As of now, he's not being charged with terrorism, although the FBI is investigating it as a terror case. If convicted, Solomon could be sentenced to life in prison. Wendy Griffith, CBN News.
It just shows the ideology of hate that has been indoctrinated into these people. It's incredible. They hate Jews, they hate Zionism, they hate Israel, and they want to do everything in their power to wipe Israel off the map. In the middle of that confrontation, the world is taking their side, where somehow or other Israel is held to a different standard. They have to do different things in the conduct of their defense. And it's absolutely amazing that we're allowing our press to turn truth on its head, and instead of covering it for what is quite plainly there. Israel has a right to exist. It's established under UN law. It was established as a goal of the League of Nations. It was part of the San Remo Conference. Israel has a legal right to exist, and this ideology that wants to wipe it off the map, we need, as the civilized world, to stand against it and say, no, not on our watch. There's not going to be another Holocaust. We're not going to allow the genocide of Jews. Well, in other news, U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee is calling out media for a fake news story claiming that somehow the IDF was firing on Palestinians at a humanitarian camp. John Jessup has that story and more from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
Thanks, Gordon. The military conflicts between Israeli forces and Palestinians are in the news again today as troops opened fire on Palestinian suspects more than a quarter mile from an aid station. That comes after Hamas claimed Israeli soldiers killed more than 30 Gazans and wounded many more at a distribution center Sunday. Global media outlets ran banner headlines on the claim, which turned out to be untrue. CBN's Chris Mitchell has a story from Jerusalem.
After CNN, the BBC, and other media ran with the Hamas story that the IDF killed dozens at a foundation aid site, U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee blasted the U.S. media. In a statement, he wrote, "Without verification of any source other than Hamas and its collaborators, the New York Times, CNN, and Associated Press reported that a number of people seeking to receive humanitarian food boxes from the Gaza Humanitarian Fund were shot or killed by the Israel Defense Forces. These reports were false." It represents more than mere sloppy journalism. It's feeding and inciting violence against innocent people in the United States. Huckabee demanded an immediate retraction and appealed to all media to act with professionalism and not blindly follow Hamas news releases. It was Ambassador Huckabee who announced the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation a few weeks ago.
The first is that food be distributed efficiently, but also that it's distributed safely inside Gaza to the people who desperately need it. The other factor, and this is an important one, that all of this be done in a way so that Hamas is not able to get their hands on it.
At the UN Security Council, Israeli Ambassador Danny Danon accused the UN of mafia-like tactics against the GHF.
But the UN is now actively joining Hamas in trying to block that aid. The UN is using threats, intimidation, and retaliation against NGOs that choose to participate in the new humanitarian mechanism. This is the gravest violation of the UN's own principles. It is the extortion of well-meaning NGOs that refuse to kiss the ring. It is a shakedown by UN mobsters. How can they do that?
And in the nuclear negotiations with Iran, President Trump on Truth Social again stated his red line on stopping the enrichment that would allow Iran to build nuclear weapons. The auto pen should have stopped Iran a long time ago from enriching. Under our potential agreement, we will not allow any enrichment of uranium. Yet Iran's foreign minister says stopping their enrichment is a deal breaker.
Definitely, there will be no deal unless enrichment inside Iran is recognized and is allowed to continue.
The IAEA reported Saturday that Iran now has enough enriched uranium to make 10 nuclear bombs. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
All right, thank you, Chris. Well, turning now to another major conflict, no breakthrough in the peace talks between Russia and Ukraine. Monday's talks coming as Russia is dealing with an unprecedented Ukrainian drone attack that targeted several Russian air bases hosting nuclear-capable strategic bombers. Ukraine said over 40 bombers, about a third of Russia's strategic fleet, were damaged or destroyed Sunday, although Moscow said only several planes were struck. The bold attack could mark a turning point in the war, as it showed Ukraine's capability to hit important targets anywhere in Russia and inflicted significant losses on Moscow's war machine. Well, also in Europe, Mount Etna, one of the world's most active volcanoes, released large plumes of ash and smoke Monday. Following a surge in activity, thick gray clouds, billowing from the volcano's southeast crater on the eastern coast of Sicily were seen by tourists and residents. Italy's National Institute of Geophysics and Volcanology reported that Etna had been experiencing explosions of growing intensity in recent weeks. Etna erupts several times a year and is closely monitored because of its close proximity to populated areas. Well, here at home, at only 3 years old, Colton Burpo inspired millions with his vision of going to heaven after nearly dying of a ruptured appendix. CBN's Billy Hallowell sat down with Colton more than 20 years later for an update on his life since that amazing event.
Colton Burpo's near-death experience inspired the popular book and movie Heaven is for Real. Years later, the 25-year-old continues sharing his incredible story.
A mother, a father, I see it, so I believe it.
What happened is when I was 3 years old, almost 4, I had a ruptured appendix. I had appendicitis. Doctors misdiagnosed it. They didn't catch it for about 5 days. And then when the doctors finally figured out what was going on, I went into emergency surgery.
During the ordeal, Burpo believes he experienced a supernatural, near-death encounter that allowed him to meet Jesus and experience heaven.
I remember lifting out of my body. I looked down. I saw the doctors. They were working on me. My mom, I saw her in one room. She was like on the phone talking with people, praying. My dad, he was in another room, and he was praying very loudly at God. And at the moment, I was freaking out. I had no idea what was going on. Then I was sitting on Jesus's lap, and he had some angels sing to me to calm me down.
Burpo's description of meeting Christ as well as deceased family members inspired many to think more deeply about heaven and the gospel. Today, he is a married, first-time dad with a powerful calling.
He has called me to be a godly man, a godly husband, now a godly dad. And when it comes to the supernatural or what is waiting for us, I'm not afraid to meet Jesus again one day. Like, I'm looking forward to that day.
As he awaits going back to heaven, Burpo, who works as a worship pastor and electrician, believes God has him on a more essential mission.
My mindset right now is, instead of being so caught up on what's waiting for me, I'm going to focus on the here and now. I'm going to live my life in a way that honors Christ. And if I can, while I'm down here, I'm going to try and get as many people to come with me to heaven. So I've been able to view it more as a mission instead of I wish I was in heaven again.
Burpo still travels America sharing his story through his family's organization, Heaven is for Real Ministries. And while near-death experiences remain a debated phenomenon, for many, these stories are inspirational reminders of the hope we have in heaven. Billy Hollowell, CBN News.
Inspirational indeed. Thank you, Billy. Gordon, back over to you.
Yeah, very inspirational. I remember when the movie came out and just the book and just the extraordinary story of the father, his argumentative prayer, and then God answering it and giving him back his son. Our purpose here is literally spelled out in the Lord's Prayer. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. We all expect to go to heaven. You know, if you're a Christian, you have that wonderful hope. But while we're here on earth, let's continue to pray that God's will would be done here. Let's not wait for the sweet by and by. Let's have his will be done in our midst. And his will is quite clear. Let's love one another just as Jesus loved us.